Okay, good morning all, and welcome to today's hearing. Before we go into it, I'd just like to ask all those present and intending to speak to introduce themselves, please. Mr. Semper.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Nick Semper. I'm a licensing consultant and agent, and I'm representing the applicant today, who is Jingwen Wang. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perhaps the applicants can go next, please.
Yes, I was going to say, can the applicants go next, please?
That's you, Jingwen. Say hi to them.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, my name is Jingwen Wang. I'm the shop owner of Wellness Beauty Cafe. It's based on the 16th Mall. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wang. Anne, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Hello, I'm Anne Chapman. I'm the chair of Ealing Civic Society, and I put in a representation against the application.
Thank you, Anne. And Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Santoni. I'm a local resident and I've put in an objection to the application.
Okay, thank you. Right. I am now going to the chair's introduction. I will be chairing today. It's a virtual hearing for an application for a new premises license for Wellness Beauty Cafe, 16 The Mall, Ealing, London, W5 2PJ. And welcome to today's hearing. My name is Councillor Jamu, and as I've said, I'll be chairing the meeting today. My colleagues, Councillor Baclini and Councillor Ball, and I comprise today's subcommittee. Cornelia Harding, who's the clerk to the subcommittee, will be minuting the meeting. Hatun Zeb is the legal advisor to the subcommittee, and Anjali Garcha is the licensing processing team leader and will introduce the report. In accordance with the procedure, I shall invite the licensing officer to introduce the report and provide clarification for any factual issues. I shall then invite the applicant to present the application and answer any questions and call any witnesses. And then invite those who have made representations or objections to make their, in this case, I believe there's no representations, and answer any questions and call any witnesses. At the conclusion of the hearing, the subcommittee, accompanied by the legal advisor and the committee democratic services officer, will retire to consider our decision. The decision will be given at the end of the meeting, probably around 12:30, but we will confirm that when we conclude. And if the panel cannot reach a decision today, you'll be notified in writing within 5 working days of the panel's decision. Okay, thank you very much. I hope that procedure was clear. Let's go into the meeting now. I am now going to invite the licensing officer to introduce the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, everybody. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hongdae International Limited have made an application for a new premises license in relation to Wellness Beauty Cafe, which is located at 16 The Mall, Ealing, London, W5 2PJ. 2 representations have been received for this application, and these are from interested parties ×2. The licensable activities that have been applied for are as follows. So provision of late night refreshment from Monday to Sunday, 2300 to 0400 hours, and supply of alcohol off the premises Monday to Sunday, 0800 to 2300 hours. And the subject premises is located in the special policy area as defined in the council statement of licensing policy. If there's anything further I can assist you with, Chair.
I don't have any further questions. I don't know if my colleagues have. If not, then we can go on to, I will invite the applicant to present the application.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Emily.
That'll be me then, Chair. So look, good morning, everybody. This is an application for a premises license for premises known as the Wellness Beauty Cafe on the Mall. If ever a name of a business encapsulated the essence of that business, it is this. It is the Wellness Beauty Cafe. Now, as you'll have heard many times before, the fundamental principle of all these hearings and applications is this, and that each application must be considered, judged, granted on its own merits. And this is a significant hearing and a remarkable, unique and noteworthy application for two reasons. Firstly, the applicants come to Ealing and has created a remarkable and unique business. It is a one-stop shop for anyone interested in Oriental food, drink, treatments, and culture. It is actually a centre for businesses catering to that Oriental market, albeit a significant constituent of their customers are actually Western people who have an interest in that Oriental lifestyle practices, foodstuffs and treatments. For example, there is an acupuncture clinic at the rear on the ground floor, and in the basement there's a beauty parlour. However, the licensing activities that we're discussing today and sought here are solely refer to the convenience store on the ground floor. Now, secondly, we recognise right from the beginning that these premises do indeed lie within the Ealing Special Policy Area and have incorporated that fact into all our considerations. Now, we maintain that the potential cumulative impact caused were this licence to be granted would be minimal due to the nature of the premises. This is a specialist store stocking predominantly Oriental products, catering to a very limited and niche market. Not more than 5% of the floor space will ever be given over to alcohol products, and the operation will be supported by a raft of conditions that should design out purchases by the street drinking population. This includes no super strength beers, lagers or ciders, no single sales of cans, and a contingent sale condition requiring the sale of other goods before any alcohol can be sold. Now, the raft of proposed conditions totally designs out the prospect of sales of alcohol to street drinkers. Now, at the end of the hours for the sale of alcohol as requested, the premises wish to stay open to provide, to stay open as a convenience store, but as a small part of that offer to provide late night refreshment, which will take the form of hot Oriental food and drink, which will be prepared at the applicant's other restaurant and kept warm on site. Now, these products consist of bubble tea, which is a tapioca pearl, which are tapioca pearls infused with milk, sugar and flavourings, and can be drunk either hot or cold. Excuse me. And small snack boxes, snack pots of food prepared elsewhere, but served warm on these premises until 4 o'clock in the morning for people with an interest in specific Oriental dishes and bubble tea heading home at night. Now, turning now to the raft of proposed conditions in front of you. I regularly submit applications for premises licence in cumulative impacts areas or special policy areas, and I'm therefore fully conversant with the requirements that this council expect should accompany such a request. Now, due to the requirements of the special policy area, you will find that additional proposed condition at 5.7 that I believe is unique to Ealing. That is the requirement that any sale of alcohol must be accompanied by a contingent sale of other goods, excluding tobacco products, to a minimum value of £5. This will be rigorously enforced by the trained and effective staff and the use of a till prompt, which will make the sale of alcohol impossible unless accompanied by that contingent sale of other goods to the value of £5. Now, why? Why would we do that? The council's present policy relating to cumulative impact in this area was and is devised as a counter to prevent antisocial street drinkers purchasing alcohol and consuming it in a public space to the detriment of the locality. This proposed condition, members of the committee, designs out that eventuality. For what antisocial problem street drinker of limited means is going to purchase £5 of other Oriental goods that they do not want each and every time that they want to make a purchase of alcohol? Couple that with the conditions of the maximum 6% alcohol by volume products and the minimum number of cans or bottles of lager, cider, or beer to set at 4 per transaction, then you have before you perhaps the most robust counter street drinking conditions seen in Ealing to date. So let me first talk you through who has, or rather in this case, who has not raised any representation. The licensing authority, authors, owners, and guardians of licensing in Ealing, and also most specifically the special policy area policy, they make no representation. The police, being the lead responsible authority and source of expert evidence and advice on all crime, disorder, and antisocial behaviour issues in the locality, have raised no representation. Environmental health, being the lead responsible authority who deal with the quality of life and pollution issues, have raised no rep. Trading standards and children's services, who protect children from harm. Public health, who deal with substance misuse, and the Planning and Highways Department, all raise no objections. This is an evidence-based decision-making process. You cannot be insensible to the fact that not one of the responsible authorities objected to this application, and they are the licensing experts. If this operating schedule did not support the licensing objectives, then they would be here to argue vehemently against it, as is their statutory duty. Now, the Civic Society, represented by Ms. Chapman, initially complained that we intended to sell alcohol until 4 o'clock in the morning. That was never our intention, and the application is clear in the fact that we only wish to retail alcohol until 2300 hours, which is within that original application. Secondly, Ms. Chapman objects to the premises selling bubble tea and snack pots between 2300 hours and 0400 hours because the core hours contained within the special policy area policy does not permit it. Okay, she states that the fact that it is a specialist Oriental convenience store is of no import. The hours of this policy are sacrosanct. Okay, on that, we say this. Firstly, and I will be talking to, I will be relying on the guidance of your lawyer when you're in recess on this stuff. Firstly, the Brewdog case in Leeds, which your legal advisor can assist you with. In that, the judge said very clearly that policy was made for man and not man for the policy. What he was saying was that policy is not law, and it is perfectly permissible for you as a licensing authority to step outside policy where there are grounds to do so. So policy does not bind you. Secondly, a bit of a history lesson here. I'm serving at the time when all this happened. The Licensing Act 2003 brought in the licensing of late night refreshment for the first time due to problems with public order, i.e. fighting outside, and public nuisance and crime, for example, street gangs and recruitment for county lines, organised crime groups. Now, the Section 182 guidance states at para 3.21, I repeat that again, it's para 3.21, and I quote, late night refreshment is regulated primarily because it is often linked to alcohol-fueled crime and disorder in the nighttime economy, such as fast food restaurants where late night drinkers congregate. However, these safeguards may not be needed everywhere and for every type of late night refreshment business. And thirdly, this is why we do not treat the provision of hot drinks and light snacks from a petrol station, forecourt shop, for example, in the same matter that we would treat a kebab house set within a throbbing and vibrant nighttime economy. In fairness, in my correspondence with Ms. Chapman, which is before you, I have tried to explain this, that in effect, we are proposing a de minimis operation here involving bubble tea and snack pots. We are not anticipating massive disruption to crime, disorder, or public nuisance here. And neither are the police or environmental health, else they would be all over this application and would be actively resisting it. So in essence, Ms. Chapman is asking you refuse this application because either, one, your policy demands that you do so, or two, she anticipates that the licensing objectives will be undermined if it were granted. Now, in order to provide some clarity, we approached Ms. Garcher, your licensing lead in Ealing, for some truly independent advice on the subject as part of our correspondence with Ealing Civic Society. Now, Ms. Garcher wrote to all parties on the 19th of December to explain that the council's legal team has clarified that, and I quote, "It is not the case that for everything falling within a particular category, particular hours must apply. Further, whilst the premises may strictly fall into the category of late night refreshment or off license, each may vary in impact according to what their offer is." And that's the end of that quote. Now, as always, we are delighted to receive Ms. Garcher's leadership in such matters, and we submit that she has correctly summarised the law. Our position was, is, and always will be that these premises offering a niche offer to a very narrow market, operating under a bespoke operating schedule on a de minimis basis, is no threat to crime and disorder and public nuisance and public safety in Ealing. Therefore, the likelihood of there being negative cumulative impact is minuscule. Now, even if the problems that Ms. Chapman and the Ealing Civic Society anticipate were to come to pass, then the Licensing Act 2003 already provides the legal remedy through the review process, which can be called by any party whatsoever, any party, even the Ealing Civic Society. That must provide the representors with some comfort that in the unlikely event of future difficulties, then the means to correct them already exists. Now, turning to Ms. Santoni, she's also submitted a representation which centres on the grounds of crime, disorder, public safety, and protection of children from harm. With respect, all these issues are comprehensively addressed in our operating schedule. And as an aside, she's also in area that when she says that we intend to retail alcohol until 4 o'clock in the morning, far be from us any such intention.
Excuse me, can I just please ask for a pause? I think the legal advisor may have dropped out
Oh, my lord.
briefly. Yes.
Okay, now look, yes, and that's...
Oh, I think she's come back.
No,
All
I'm
right.
still here. I'm
Okay.
not sure why it would suggest that. I'm still
Okay.
here. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Sorry.
If there was any break there, what I can do is I can send my submission in hard copy through at the end of it. So you know, anything that needs to be teased out in recess can be addressed then. But if I'm allowed to press on, Chair.
You may.
Okay,
Right.
bless you. Thank you for that. Now, as concerns antisocial behaviour issues in the locality and effect of antisocial behaviour on local businesses, and indeed anyone in Ealing, I say this: we have every sympathy, as we ourselves are residents and significant investors in the area. But this has got nothing to do with us. We've sold no alcohol to anybody, and therefore it cannot be our fault. They're not our customers, and they've got nothing to do with us. Now, if there are issues with antisocial drink-dependent people in the area, then please let the responsible authorities deal with them appropriately in accordance with the public order legislation and your local public spaces protection order, if you have one, I'm sure you will, and deal with the outlets that actually sell those products to antisocial street drinking dependent people, okay, in accordance with the Licensing Act. We welcome and strongly urge the authorities to do just that, because those behaviours affect Jingwen and her customers equally and have nothing to do with us. Now, finally, the representatives claim that if this application was granted, it would increase the problems that Ealing already suffers from. Again, with respect, they've got no evidence of that. Surely you cannot accept that on hearing that a premises named the Wellness Beauty Cafe can sell limited types of alcohol under stringent conditions and then only contingent on the sale of £5 of other goods and supply bubble tea and snack pots to shift workers heading home late at night, then the Mall will suddenly experience a tsunami of alcohol-dependent ASB perpetrating criminals. The fact is that these representations are based on fear and speculation upon what might happen at some undetermined time in the future were you to grant this license. Apart from pointing to the unique raft of license conditions before you, I also have this to say. This is an evidence-based decision-making process. Fear and speculation of what may or may not happen at some undisclosed period in the future is not evidence. The dictum of the famous Thwaites versus Wirral Borough Council case that sets precedent, binding precedents upon this hearing, and it sets out in the clearest terms that you, as a panel, should be actuated by real evidence of actual problems. So in conclusion, members of the committee, sitting before you today are the following evidenced facts, not opinions, but facts. 1, the applicant is a capable and competent operator of a successful, highly specialist and exceptionally well-stocked premises, which has created a zero footprint with the responsible authorities to date. 2, the raft of conditions effectively and efficiently designs out the possibility of antisocial street drinkers sourcing their alcohol from these premises. 3, the representations against the application are well meant, but misguided, insofar that they misunderstand the effects of the special policy area and its attendant policy, and do not recognise the flexibility of the legislation, guidance, and policies. And they raise issues unconnected to the applicants and their premises. And lastly, at the end of all these representations, you cannot get away from one undeniable further fact. There is not one shred of evidence in these papers that speak against these premises, this applicant, the designated premises supervisor, or the operating schedule before you. It is almost as if they've never read it. There is no evidence, nothing whatsoever. Consequently, I respectfully request that you grant this application for a premises license in the terms in which it's been made, and that you wish the Wellness Beauty Cafe and Jingwen every ongoing success with her significant investment in Ealing. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. I know Anne's got a hand up, but before I go to Anne, Jingwen, is there anything you'd like to add to what Nick has already said?
No, I think everything is there. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Right, okay. I am now going to go to Anne, who's got a hand up already, and she's also the objector. Anne, over to you.
Thank you for that, Chair. Thank you for that, Chair.
We'll go to questions in a moment.
Thank you for that, Chair, but I haven't got my hand up and I haven't got any questions.
Oh, sorry. I thought I saw a hand up there. I do apologise. Laura, did you want to ask a question?
Yes, I have a question. You mentioned, Mr. Semper, that the sale of alcohol the alcohol can only be sold if someone spends £5. You also say that there's absolutely no evidence of people buying alcohol and causing some form of disturbance. The two things I wish to point out are, as a very local resident and passing the area daily, when Royal Foods was open and they were selling alcohol, there were very often people sitting around on the wall outside Carmelita House drinking. My question to you is, with the £5 limit before someone can buy alcohol, what stops one person going in and buying 6 cans of beer and all of their drinking mates contributing £1 or less to something called food that they can then come out, have Doritos or whatever it is, because I see that's what the shop sells, and then drink their cans of alcohol? What stops that?
Right, I can answer that. A couple of things. Yes, you're right. I've explained the £5 contingent sale. I said there was no. You said that I said there was no evidence of antisocial behaviour issues. With respect, ma'am, I never said that. There clearly are. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a special policy area, and it's attendant policy. So, if you've misunderstood what I said there, no problems. Right. What is just right? The fact that people used to sit outside drinking at Royal Foods. We're not. That's actually nothing to do with Jingwen. Okay, and if they were causing a problem outside Royal Foods, having sourced their drink from Royal Foods, that's a matter for the responsible authorities to get a grip of Royal Foods and bring them to account for selling to drunken people. And lastly, what's to stop 4 people clubbing together to buy 6 cans of beer and £5 worth of Doritos? Absolutely nothing. My point would be this. Why would they, when they can go anywhere else that they want to in Ealing and not be subject to those conditions? Why would they go through that rigmarole of having to club together and buy £5 of Doritos when they could go to a local Tesco's Express or Morrison's or Royal Foods or wherever is nearby and buy 1 can of what they want, of a strength they want, without any ancillary contingent sale? Why would they do that? Thank you.
Well, all I have to say on that is that my evidences and my experiences, they're not sitting outside Royal Foods because there isn't anywhere to sit out Royal Foods. They're sitting outside Carmelita House, which is the council building for children with additional needs. And they're sitting out there from about 8 o'clock in the morning. And they're drinking out of cans, and they are eating some bread or they're eating something with it. So yes, they don't have to get it from a convenience store, but why would they bother going further away if the place is right there and that's where they congregate?
Okay, well, that is, well, I've been asked the question, Chair. Yes, I take your point. And again, my response to that is, why would they go to the Wellness Beauty Cafe to buy, which stocks predominantly Oriental foods and Oriental beers and alcohol products, and pay £5 extra to do this? And the fact of the matter is, Jingwen is not in the business of selling alcohol to people that cause problems outside her shop. That would be fatal to her business. A, because the responsible authorities and Ms. Garcher would take a very dim view of that. And secondly, this is not the avatar of customer that she attracts or wants to attract. They are not welcome. People who do things like that are not welcome in the Wellness Beauty Cafe, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Laura, have you got another question, Laura?
Yes, I have.
Bring in Anne, but carry on.
Sorry, Anne, do you want to speak first? I just have one other thing to say. In terms of public safety and disorder, my other concern is, and you're saying that's not going to happen just because of the Wellness and Beauty Cafe selling food until 4 o'clock in the morning, and that there's not going to be any real disruption to people living in the area. Well, I know that many people are actually in the area are quite concerned about the fact there are people living up above who are concerned about the place staying open until 4 o'clock in the morning. And because the license application wasn't on the government, on the council website, most people didn't know how to how to get in touch with the council, the people I know of. Public safety doesn't just involve the people out in the street, but it also actually involves the person who's selling the food until 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, when Royal Foods was open, they had someone there who was, who stood at the door and tried to stop certain people's coming in. My other question would be, how are they dealing with public safety, including on their own premises?
Jingwen, I think there's something happening your end. Okay, sorry, Laura, you may carry on.
That was all my question was. Are they going to be doing anything to, as you say, the only people that are going to go in there are people who are Oriental or who want Oriental foods.
Yes.
But that doesn't stop the fact that people could go in and cause public safety issues within the premises.
Right. Public safety is to do with the safety of public attending the. It's things like, you know, health and safety and stuff like that. Now, every business has a health and safety risk assessment. It has to. Okay. And if it's become evident that there is a risk to staff working inside of people going in there at night, then there are things to be done. There's, you know, there's training, or there's you'd employ Security Industry Association doorman on a risk assessed basis. But like I say, as part of my presentation was all about it was all about the benefits and the de minimis nature of this application. But I did actually address the panel on the fact that a lot of these representations is based on fear and speculation. You are fearing the worst and speculating what might happen. Okay. Now, I'm sorry things went wrong with foods, but that has got absolutely nothing to do with Jingwen and the Wellness Beauty Cafe. Now, if problems were to ensue, then Jingwen would take a view as to what control measures she would put around that, including SIA on a risk assessed basis, the doorman after, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever, or indeed actually completely eradicate the risk by not staying open until 2 o'clock in the morning. In your question, which I think is probably part of your presentation later on, you also mentioned that people didn't know about it. Well, with respect, you can't give evidence on behalf of other people who aren't here, but certainly the application was advertised to everybody living in the area, because there were I sent down 3 laminated blue notices as required by the Licensing Act and the regulations that were displayed on the premises for 28 days. And we also advertised it in the local paper. And on those blue notices and in the local paper are the links to the council, whereby you can examine a copy of that application. So I'm sorry if people think they were in some way cheated of being able to make a representation, but I assure you that this representation was advertised and using legal notices entirely within the letter and to the letter of the Licensing Act. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, Anne, I was going to ask you to present your objection. Do you want to add?
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. As I said in my introduction, I chair Ealing Civic Society, a long-established amenity group, and our members look to us to do what we can to maintain the residential amenity within Ealing, including compliance with, and I use this word, guidance of policy. I appreciate, as Mr. Semper says, that policy is not law, but it's guidance. But we're looking for compliance with that guidance. Our representation is focused on the proposed extended opening and trading hours that are outside the core hours set out in the licensing policy. We had hoped that the agent and the applicant, in recognition of the fact that they are in a special area, would accept our suggestion that the core hours were adopted and demonstrate their understanding of local concerns by doing so. And that would have avoided this hearing if they'd agreed to that suggestion. Although we consider it more appropriate that a premises designated as a convenience store should actually cease trading at 11 o'clock, we recognise that this part of the operation isn't governed by licensing. The agent suggested earlier that by describing the premises as a convenience store, it in some way suggests that the provision of late night takeaway food is not subject to the guidance in the policy on operational hours. We would disagree with this. The apparently specialist nature of the store proposed may well be less likely to attract the type of problems that can be associated with other types of late night premises, but it remains the fact that it is proposed to offer takeaway food, and in our view, the policy provisions most certainly apply. The residential nature of the area, which Ms. Santoni has touched on, is also very different to a garage forecourt, which may offer teas, coffees, and food throughout night hours. Typically, these garage forecourts are not in immediately residential areas, and if they are operating throughout the night, that activity is going on anyway, so the provision of late night refreshment is not adding to that activity. So we are maintaining that the opening of a takeaway premises until 4 a.m. throughout the week is inappropriate. It will potentially attract additional people to the area, which will cause nuisance and disturbance during the nighttime hours. So just to be very clear what we're...
Have the lights cut out yet today? To be no good?
Apologies, and I think there's some interruption here from Jingwen. Jingwen, we can hear your conversation.
Jingwen, put yourself on mute. Put your phone on mute, Jingwen.
Yes.
Put your phone on mute, please, Jingwen. Thank you.
Apologies, Anne.
I'll carry on. Just to be clear, what we are asking for, we are not proposing complete refusal of the licence. What we're asking for on the takeaway operation is that it should be restricted to midnight, Sunday to Thursday, and 1 a.m. Friday and Saturday, in line with the policy and for the avoidance of nuisance and disturbance. If we turn now to alcohol sales, we appreciate in our initial representation we misunderstood the wording of drinks in the application, and we fully accept that it is not intended to offer alcohol after 11 p.m. However, it is still subject to the core hours. These core hours allow alcohol off sales to commence at 8 a.m. Monday to Thursday, but they restrict that start time to 10 a.m. on Friday and Saturday and 11 a.m. on Sunday. And we're asking that these later weekend hours should be adhered to. So we welcome the conditions that have been offered in the operating schedule, which we agree go further than a number of people sometimes offer, but we're not asking that the licensing committee refuse the application in its entirety. But if the panel were to grant the application with the revised hours as we are suggesting, it would be policy compliant, it would support the licensing objectives, and it would allow perfectly reasonable trading hours for a convenience store while maintaining local amenity. Thank you.
And could I ask you to repeat the hours that you're suggesting, please? Cornelia, could you take a note?
Yep. On takeaway. On takeaway operation, that should be restricted to end at midnight, Sunday to Thursday, and 1 a.m. Friday and Saturday. So not extending beyond those hours, so never extending to 4 a.m. as asked for. And then on the alcohol sales, that the start time on Fridays and Saturdays should be 10 a.m. and Sundays 11 a.m. We recognise that the policy allows 8 a.m. Monday to Thursday.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you very much. Okay, I am now going to open this up to questions. The panel questions. Councillor Ball. Please say who you want to direct the question at, please.
Sure, will do. Yeah, it's rather an unusual application, so I have quite a few questions, if that's all right, Chair. Thank you. Firstly, for Ms. Zeb to give a legal clarification, Mr. Semper referred to binding precedents from a case in another borough. I thought that we weren't guided by precedents in that way. Can Ms. Zeb clarify that, please?
Hetty?
Yes, I'm here. I have to apologise because my connection has been coming in and out. I think I got the back end of a precedent that was mentioned, a Leeds authority, Mr. Semper, is that correct?
I mentioned two. There's one was Brewdog, the Brewdog case, and that was just a quote from the judge, and that does not set precedent. Policy is made for the man, not man is made for the policy. Okay, but that's not that important, because I think everybody recognises, including Anne, to her credit, that the policy is a movable feast, but it should not be moved in this case, I think, is her position. The case that I did quote that sets binding precedent is the case of Daniel Thwaites and Wirral Borough Council. Okay, and it's the judgment of Her Honour Justice Black, and it's to do with fear and speculation and the need, the requirement for real evidence of actual problems or actual evidence of real problems, one or the other. And that's what I was. That was the case I was earmarking. But I am not, although I'm qualified in law to some order, I'm not a practicing solicitor. So I'm obviously going to leave that with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Semper. Firstly, Councillor, I'm not familiar with the case, so I'll have to look that case up to be able to establish what the circumstances around that case were. But in relation to anything that is binding for the licensing subcommittee, the licensing subcommittee are required to take into consideration this application on its own merits based on the 4 licensing objectives, which we're required to uphold, as are the applicant and indeed anyone associated with the premises, and any evidence that is before this panel in relation to those licensing objectives. I think the point that was raised by Mr. Semper specifically was in relation to whether, given that this application is within a special policy area, should it then be, by the letter of the law, applied in every circumstance and a license not be granted? Well, that certainly isn't the case. And I would endorse the advice that's been provided by my colleague to Ms. Garcher and already shared within the papers of this report in relation to this matter. And I would further that by reference to the statement of licensing policy, which no doubt Ms. Chapman will be aware of, as she is someone who is quite familiar with Ealing's licensing matters, and indeed you as a panel will be aware of. And there are various references within the policy which require the licensing subcommittee to take each application on its own merits. And any requirements within a policy are not absolute. It's a matter for you to base any decision that you reach at the end of hearing or submissions on the evidence that has been before you and in view of the licensing objectives. Indeed, as Mr. Semper has said, the onus is on him as the representative and the applicant to ensure, or the representative for the applicant, to ensure that he satisfies you that the operating schedule and indeed what this business is about to do is compliant with the licensing objectives. I anticipate that clarifies that situation.
Thank you, Hetty. Councillor Ball, you had a few more questions?
Yes, please. So looking at proposed condition 4 on security, So some late night refreshment premises have security all the time. Others have them just at certain times. And in fact, Mr. Semper even referred to the possibility of a doorman after 2 a.m. Has the applicant considered, rather than risk assessing and leaving it till later, has the applicant considered having an SIA security guard at late hours on Fridays and Saturdays as a condition?
Well, clearly, sir, we've considered it all.
Nick, if you don't mind, please. I'm assuming Jing Wen is going to be running this establishment. Jing Wen, can you answer this question, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sorry, the gentleman from Ealing Council. He's inspecting our shop. Yeah. So, okay. So, I didn't fully understand the question, but I think for what I heard, I should be okay. Yes. Yes.
John,
so the question,
do you want to ask the question again so that he understands it, please?
Sure. So the question was, would you consider having a security guard during late night hours?
Okay, so we tried, because we haven't got permission, so I didn't really do good planning. But I think we will have a special staff for the night shift. So maybe he once worked as a security and he had this kind of qualification and to be our staff for the evening shift. Okay.
I mean, that would be one way around it, I guess, would be to have, I mean, because I think the way the conditions normally worded is that there's an SIA member of staff, so it would be possible, I guess, to have the SIA member of staff serving.
Okay.
Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, we did consider it, but the police did not insist upon it. Neither did any of the responsible authorities, and they are the experts in licensing, and they are guardians of the special policy area. Okay, and we put in this, having thought long and hard about it, having read the statement of licensing policy, and not one of those responsible authorities has come back and told us that what we proposed was not acceptable. Now, now, if there were problems further up the road, well, clearly. Jing Wen would consider having SIA, but they on the face of the operating schedule as it stands, nobody up until today has thought it's necessary to have a doorman on this shop in the event that they sell hot bubble tea and snack pots after 2 o'clock on a Friday and Saturday night. Now, clearly, if that's your wish, if she wishes to sell hot bubble tea after 2 o'clock on a Friday, Saturday night, she can only do that in the presence of an SIA doorman. But to be fair, I think that's disproportionate. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks.
Councillor Ball, do you have another question?
So again, for Mr. Semper. Is there any particular justification for the earlier sales of alcohol on Friday, Saturday and Sunday mornings than the core hours? I see when Mrs. Chapman asked that in writing, that your suggestion was that street drinkers would purchase alcohol from elsewhere due to the conditions, but outside core hours, most of the other premises in the area aren't selling alcohol. So what's your response? Surely outside the core hours, then there's more of a concern that people would street drinkers would buy from there regardless of the conditions, because there aren't many alternatives for them.
Yes, that's a really good question. Okay, now the core hours are to do with a special policy, and we have submitted a raft of conditions that perhaps you've not seen so comprehensive in. Jing Wen, can you put yourself on mute again, please, hon? Right, that's Jing Wen, can you put yourself on mute, please?
Yeah.
You're still live. You've still got a live mic. Okay, I'm going to try and press ahead.
Please do.
Right. Okay. Look, the special policy area, those core hours refer to that special policy, and it's all about antisocial and problem drinking and criminal behaviours and what have you. We can step outside that because we believe we can step outside that. Sorry, the decision of whether we can step outside that, of course, is entirely yours. Jingwen, please put your phone on. Please put your phone on mute. Thank you. Okay. The reason why we believe we can step outside that is on the strength of the comprehensive, almost draconian raft of license conditions that we have offered, and which has proved to be acceptable to every responsible authority in Ealing, okay? Because you can't buy the kind of products that street drinking population crave, okay? They want super strength stuff. So we've put a limit on there of 6%. They also like to buy one can at a time. There's a reason for that. A passing police officer or PCSO or council licensing officer is perfectly entitled to take drink of people who are drinking in defiance of an alcohol ban in area or a public spaces protection order. So passing police officer comes along, finds them in possession of 4 cans, they lose all 4. That's why they buy one at a time, and therefore they are not vulnerable to this type of seizure. That is why we've said that we will only sell in 4s. This is not the model that your street drinking population buy. Thereafter, Polish lagers usually around about the 9%, your super strength, your special brews, your Capachis and what have you, and they buy one at a time. These are not the products that Jingwen will retail. And that is why we believed at the time of submission, supported by the fact that none of the responsible authorities objected to it, that it was acceptable for us to start retailing alcohol at 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 days a week, because of that raft of draconian conditions. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Sorry, Chair, can I just come back to that?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so the unusual condition you have is the £5 food requirement, but the no high strength and no single cans are standard conditions for many off licenses. So I think yes, the only unique thing you've got is the £5 food, and that seems to be, as Ms. Santoni mentioned, it's not that difficult to get around that by buying a bag of Doritos or whatever. So it doesn't seem like there's a sort of a magic bullet to make the early sales unproblematic.
Yes, sir. But why would you? Why? If what you're saying is right, there would be a pile of discarded Oriental vegetables outside the Wellness Beauty Cafe between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock in the morning, discarded by people, antisocial street drinkers, drink-dependent people, who had to buy them and didn't want them. Okay, we're in the realms of speculation, but I'm just not sure that would ever happen. That's the purpose of the £5 contingent fee sale condition. I mean, this is a condition that I've offered in Liverpool, in Kensington, one of their toughest parts of town, and in Wakefield, in Leeds, and this has been established to eradicate that kind of customer, a customer who would not be served by Jingwen and her staff anyway, because frankly, they are not welcome. Okay, so look, whatever conditions you want, sir, you will have. That is the nature of this, and I totally respect that. I'm just trying to put some context around this. It's not a magic bullet. Well, actually, it's highly effective, efficient at actually designing out this kind of problem, as has been proved repeatedly elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Baclini, do you have questions? Please ask.
Yes, my question is to Mr. Semper. Do you have other reasons to why you want to open beyond 11 to 4? Well, you want to open from 11 to 4 to sell bubble tea and snacks. Is there other reasons why you want to open beyond?
Yes, of course. This is a convenience store, and it will retailing to shift workers and what have you coming back at night, and it will be a convenience store anyway till 4 o'clock in the morning, because it's not a licensable activity to be a convenience store. All that Jingwen would like to do is to be able to offer hot bubble tea and some snack pots to people going home at night. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Buckley, any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned in your representation shift workers, and what do you mean? What do you mean by shift workers in a residential area like the mall?
That's a really good.
What type of shift workers, and how far do you think shift workers are? Like, because you are in a residential area with
Okay. I'm sorry if I seem to have overemphasized the word shift worker. There will be a street population about between 2,300 hours and 400 hours. Now, there will be revelers amongst them, and there will be other people like myself when I used to work, unsociable hours and whatever, making their way home, popping in to get whatever provisions you need at that time of night. And that's what I was alluding to. Whatever that street population is, what I'm saying is this is a de minimis late night refreshment operation that will not attract the same kind of issues that the SPA was specifically targeting, i.e. kebab houses, burger houses, chip shops that people go to after they left nightclubs and what have you. And that's why I gave that quote from the Section 182 guidance, saying that not all late night refreshment operations are the same, and that was supported by Ms. Garcher's advice that was conveyed on from your own legal department. I cannot talk intelligently about how many shift workers are in the mall at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm very sorry if I've led you up that blind alley and trying to explain the nature of the bubble tea and hot snack pot provision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Buckley. Jingwen, I'd like to ask you questions, please. Jingwen, are you there?
Oh, yes, please. I would. Yeah, yes.
Hi. Okay. The question I'd like to ask you is obviously this wellness cafe that you sound so passionate about. What sort of experience do you have of running this cafe, and the fact that you're now proposing that you want to open it till 4 o'clock? Has any research been done to back this information?
Oh, yes. Just outside our shop is the bus, many bus stop there. So every day, any time I saw, because the bus is light bus, so always had people get off it from bus. Yeah, very busy.
Sorry, I can't quite hear you. And can you please speak a bit louder? It's very difficult to hear you.
Okay, so because our shop on the opposite of the street, there are many it's a bus stop in front of the hotel, the house. Yeah. So anytime I saw lots of people get off, because the bus is light bus, run 24 hours. So I saw lots of people get off the bus. Yeah, I think the number many bus from the nearby towns. Yeah, so people come to here. Yeah. So I noticed. So maybe they need some food after they finish the job, shift job. Yeah.
That's lovely, Jingwen. Thank you for explaining the bus stop. Can you just tell the chair what your experiences is of operating businesses involving late night refreshment in London, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay, so yeah, sorry, yeah. So I in the past I do some online sale on eBay and Amazon, but we have staff. They are many years retail experience. Yeah, for myself, I'm not, but we have staff, they are capable to do that.
So are you going to be running this establishment, or is there somebody else going to be running it for you?
Okay, we should have a manager. Yeah,
You have a
job
manager.
manager to do daily work. Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me, ma'am. Jingwen, your designated premises supervisor is experienced. Can you talk us through your nominated designated premises supervisor and their experience of running similar nighttime restaurants or nighttime economy venues?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Yes, he came from China and worked for UK, I think maybe nearly 20 years. His name is Pei Hong Wu, Mrs. Wu, and he opened a lot of restaurants and retail grocery shop. So he has a lot of experience. And he once worked in China. When he was young, he was armed soldier in the Chinese army. So he's therefore qualified for security or something. Yes, I'm sorry for my poor English. Yeah. Can you understand me?
Carry on, Jingwen, carry on.
Oh,
It's
yes.
fine.
So I
Yeah,
think,
it's fine.
yeah, we have staff qualified to do, yeah. Okay, so, yeah, so, okay, yeah, so I'm sorry, some people, yeah, okay, so that's my answer, yeah, please.
All right, thank you. Nick, I'm going to ask you this question because I didn't quite get the gist of it. Has any research been done as to the need for this establishment to be open till 4 o'clock?
Yes, ma'am, that's what she was telling us. I'm sorry if you're not used to her accent. What it is she's saying is that there is a steady footfall of people coming past her place from the bus stops. I mean, I don't know the Mall well, but she says there is a significant, footfall of people going past the shop at that time of night. I presume if they're on the buses, they're on their way home. Right. Secondly, she told us of the DPS, who has 20 years of working within restaurants and the restaurant trade and shops. And there's another member of staff there who I believe is female, who was a former soldier in the Chinese army, who will be doing the late shifts. I think that's what she told us, ma'am.
Yeah, I think that's how I understood as well. Okay, are there any questions from anyone, the panel or the objectors whilst we're at it? Any other questions? Councillor Ball?
No,
Chair,
that's fine, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, sorry, I have a question. It's Cornelia.
Yes, Cornelia.
I understood that the person who was the soldier was also the same person who has the 20 years experience in opening businesses. Am I wrong in that? From what Miss Wang
yes.
was saying.
Let's ask that question to Ms.
Yes.
Jingwen. Cornelia, can you
Yes,
ask the
the
question?
same
again, please?
person.
It's the same person. It's
Yes,
not two people.
it's the
Yeah.
same person.
It's the same person.
He
Same
will
person.
be, yes.
Thank you, Cornelia,
Okay.
for clarifying that for us. Okay, Councillor Baclini, do you have any other questions that you'd like to ask?
No further questions, Chair.
Thank you. Anne, are there any other questions that you'd like to ask? No, thank you. Okay, Laura, are there any other questions you'd like to ask? Okay, if that's the case, then I think Hetty.
Chair, I think you're moving to closings.
Yes.
So if Mr. Semper wants to go first. And
I
then
was
we'll
going to
go-
say, if that's the case, we are going to close off for a little while and make our decision. Can I say that we meet again in half an hour? Is that okay? Or if we are
Chair.
ready sooner?
Chair, before we retire, sorry, it's the opportunity to give all parties the opportunity to close their submissions. So if Mr. Semper would go first to give his, if he has any further remarks, and then the objectors.
Mr. Semper, would you like to close your submission?
Surely I was talking to you there when I was on mute, which is a very 2022 problem, isn't it? Okay, now look, with great credit to Ms. Chapman from Ealing Civic Society, she has recognised that this premises is less likely to attract problems associated with late night refreshment in the nighttime economy establishments. She's also recognised the comprehensive raft of conditions. She's still her position is. Jingwen, can you put yourself on mute, please, hon? We're just wrapping up here. Thank you so much. Okay. Obviously, her position's not changed, but she should be given every credit for recognising those two important things. I've tried to explain, I think, adequately, that this is a de minimis operation. This is not your usual late night refreshment place. It is a convenience store, and she simply wants to provide bubble tea and snack pots. It's not going to be queues of people outside waiting for their kebab and arguing and fighting over their pie and chips at the other end of it. Never would be, never intended to be. And were it to become so, it would be closed by you and under your powers of review anyway. The applicant is a capable and competent operator of a successful, highly specialist, and exceptionally well-stocked well-stocked with Oriental products premises, which has created zero footprint with responsible authorities to date. Those responsible authorities have absolutely scrutinised this application, okay, and find nothing wrong with it. The test to be applied here is whether the operating schedule before you will promote the licensing objectives or not. And if not, if it would be likely to undermine the licensing objectives, then there are things that need to be done to it. But the responsible authorities, who are the licensing experts in Ealing, find this application acceptable with those hours from 8 o'clock in the morning and with the bubble tea from 11 o'clock at night till 4. Okay. And why do they find it acceptable? The raft of conditions effectively and efficiently designs out the possibility that antisocial street drinkers will source their alcohol from these premises. Yes, we've got the usual ones. The Councillor Bull is absolutely right. They've got the usual ones about the 6% and what have you. But this has got the contingent sale. He described it as a magic bullet. And frankly, I wouldn't be so brave as to claim it as such, but it is highly effective and efficient at making these premises, which are not attractive to street drinkers anyway, making them off limits because they haven't got the £5 spare to make that contingent sale, especially if that £5 could be spent a distance down the road somewhere that doesn't insist upon it, and that £5 could be spent on alcoholic products. Now, dealing with the representations against the application, they are, like I say, well meant but misguided insofar that they misunderstand the effect of the SPA, what it's designed to do, who it's designed to, who and what it's designed to address, and they do not recognise the flexibility of the legislation, the guidance, and the policy. When they raise issues unconnected with the applicants in these premises, for example, what was going on at Royal Foods and things like that, I'm sorry, but that's not connected with this application and the operating schedule that sits in front of you right now. And at the end of all these representations, there are but two. You cannot get away from that one undeniable fact. There is not one shred of evidence that speaks against these premises, the applicant, the designated premises supervisor, or the operating schedule. There is nothing that speaks against it. It is all fear and speculation about what might happen. And I'm venture to suggest that the likelihood of that happening is minuscule. So consequently, and again, I respectfully request that you do indeed grant this application for a premises license in the most limited terms in which it's been made, with the most comprehensive raft of licensing conditions surrounding it, and that you wish this Wellness Beauty Cafe and Jingwen every ongoing success with her significant investment in Ealing. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. And is there anything you'd like to add to sum up?
Nothing I'd like to add, but just to say, by way of summing up, is that I maintain the position that we have, that we're asking that the application not be refused, but that it be granted, but with the restricted hours at either end of the days as appropriate, as I outlined earlier.
Thank you very much, Anne. Laura, is there anything you wanted to add? I can't hear you, Laura. Is there anything you'd like to add?
I'm trying to, sorry, I couldn't unmute it. All I would like to say is I agree with Anne Chapman and agree with her requests to limit the hours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Laura. Okay, thank you all for summing up. And this is where the panel will retire to deliberate together with our legal advisors, and we'll get back to you. I assume about half an hour, but if it's before, the clerk, Cornelia, will be in touch with you and we can resume earlier. Okay, thank you all. And if the panel can stay on site and our legal advisors, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, Mr. Semper, if you don't hear from me, just take it to return at 12:30 if I don't contact you by email. And likewise, Miss Chapman and Miss Santoni.
So what do? We actually leave the
You can
meeting?
log off. You leave, yes.
Okay.
Or you can just put, yeah, you do need to leave actually. You can be in the waiting room. Should I put you in the waiting room?
If you-
Yes, you can put them in the waiting room. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just bear with me, I'll do that.